Hey everybody, so I was going to do a video on the whole we choose the bear nonsense, but I instead wanted to talk about this thing that happened at the University of Mississippi recently. If you're following in the news, and I'm going to provide a very specific link to this in the description below, but if you follow if you've been following the news about this lately, at the University of Mississippi recently, there was a pro-Palestine demonstration where a single black woman, heavy-set black woman, was targeted with extremely racist taunting by a mob of young white men. It's not even a fair fight. We're talking about this one woman by herself standing down what looks to be about 100 guys, and the 100 guys are having to be restrained by law enforcement. Matt Walsh actually did a comment on this. And if you're wondering why, I should point out I do listen to a wide range of people. I'll listen to people on the Daily Wire. I listen to people on MSNBC, people on CNN. Bill Maher is a favorite of mine. All across the board. And you're probably wondering, you probably want to commend me on listening to such a wide range of perspectives. It's not that at all. I'm not one of these people that hides behind like, oh, I want to have an informed opinion about what everybody's thinking. No, it's that I know what I think about the issues, and I'm deliberately seeking out newscasters that will echo my existing opinion. I already know I'm right. I just want to know more about why I'm right. Anyway, so that said, I end up because of that, I end up hearing people also saying the same people also saying things I wildly don't agree with. And this is certainly true of what Matt Walsh said about this incident. I keep pointing because I have a news article on it up on my monitor right here. But Matt Walsh is dead wrong about what was about everything here. So he plays the video of this incident, which you can see in his you can see below anyway. But he plays the video of this incident and says that you won't be able to watching it. You won't be able to figure out what the where the racist component is, or figure it out. It was abundantly obvious to me the nanosecond I saw it. I knew exactly where the racism was coming from. For one thing, they shout chants of Lizzo at her because she's a heavy-set black woman, so they're cutting her down that way. But most importantly, there is a young man who starts doing monkey noises and monkey dancing at her, and which is extraordinarily racist. And Matt Walsh proceeds to pretend that he doesn't understand why this is extraordinarily racist. He actually goes so far as to pretend that he doesn't understand why calling her Lizzo is racist. And I have to think he's being sarcastic at this point, but he says, well, white, or the left is always saying that Lizzo is beautiful and everything, so shouldn't they be considering this to be a compliment and all of that? And it's like, no, Matt, you know full well that white male conservatives in Mississippi are not the ones who are holding Lizzo up as a beauty queen. They consider that to be an insult. You know it full well. They're mocking her for being a fat black woman. And I'm just curious, Matt. Can you really not understand? I mean, there's always a chance that when you make a video like this, that it'll get featured and get responded to on the Daily Wire. I'm just curious, Matt. When I was in college, I went to college up in Boston, by the way. But I'm just curious. Can you understand? Can you understand this? There was a kid that lived a couple doors down from me in the dorms when I was in college, who every time he was going to go take a dump, he would announce it by saying that he was going to go drop the Cosby kids off at the pool. I took him to task on that, and actually had to explain to him why that was racist. He didn't grasp it at all. Can you figure that out, Matt? Can you piece that together on your own? Can you figure out why announcing that you're going to take a dump by saying you're going to drop the Cosby kids off at the pool is racist. Can you get your head around that? I'm really curious. Because see, here's the thing, Matt. I want to tell you a little bit about the University of Mississippi because get this, I used to live in Oxford, Mississippi, where the University of Mississippi is located. And boy howdy, do I know a lot more about that place than you do. You either come off in this video as an apologist for outright racism or someone who is just hilariously and deeply naive, and I have to think that it's some combination of the two. Look, that the monkey noises thing that you heard right there, that, believe it or not, that is incredibly commonplace in that area. That is an incredibly commonplace way of making loud derogatory noises like that, because we're talking about people who operate at the brainstem level, and yeah, making incredibly derogatory noises like that is very commonplace. When I was there as a junior high and high school student, not only did I see that the monkey noises thing, I saw Native American people being mocked with war whooping. I saw Latin students being mocked by being called Cheez-Its. I even saw, and this is what arguably what haunts me the most, I saw young women being beaten in public by, punched in the face, slapped, knocked to the ground by men for talking to boys that those men did not approve of them talking to. And I saw that I was face to face with that because I was one of them. And here's the thing, Matt, a while ago you did a comment on the Matthew Shepard thing, and you actually said in that gay bashings don't happen, and they didn't even happen 20 years ago when the Matthew Shepard thing happened. Dude, I was in high school when the Matthew Shepard thing happened. And look, I'm not gay, but I got gay bashed in the extreme, because get this, man, I'm on the autism spectrum. I have a lot of weird fidgets and behaviors and mannerisms and everything. And, some I've gotten under control, some I still deal with. But, those guys, they didn't think I was, I'm sorry, I'm straight, but they assumed I was gay. They didn't know that I was autistic. They just assumed that all my weird mannerisms was gay. Man, I've been gay bashed like you wouldn't believe, dude. I've been hit by a car. I've had fireworks shot at me. I've been beaten unconscious. When I got beaten unconscious, I got beaten so hard because the guy kept stomping on me after I blacked out on the ground. When I came to, I couldn't see out of this eye. That kid that did that to me, they eventually had to expel him altogether because he beat up another guy to the point that he shattered the guy's rib cage. Jesus fucking Christ, Matt, you have no idea the insane war zone that you're talking about down there. And what's amazing about Oxford, as insane as that was, I love Oxford. I visited Oxford a couple of years ago, and I look forward to doing it again at some point. I miss Oxford. I actually have fond memories of Oxford. How? Because the weird thing is, there's two Oxfords. They're in the same city. There is this insanely racist, white supremacist, blithering madness where they will speak fondly of the Ku Klux Klan, where all the young men are members of the Sons of Confederate Veterans, which is a thinly veiled white supremacist, white hate organization, or white supremacist racial hatred organization. Like they have very thinly veiled ties to the white power movement. They're all the young men are members of that. And then it's amazing, you turn it around, and in the same town, there's this town with all of this art and culture and music and literature and theater, and it's incredible, and it's this academic community because of Ole Miss, because of the University of Mississippi. It's this academic community, and it's incredible. And It's the place where they celebrate writers like Barry Hannah. Barry Hannah lived in Oxford. He actually lived one neighborhood over from me. His dogs used to run loose in our neighborhood. But Barry Hannah, an incredible writer. People like that, amazing. William Faulkner lived there. It's just this incredible literature and art community combined with this insane racist redneck shithole place. I mean, it's like living in Oxford. It's like being best friends with a guy that's like the smartest, coolest, most intellectual person and he's got a conjoined twin that's a neo-Nazi. It's the wildest thing. But man, you are so out of your depth on this. Either you are so out of your depth on this, or you are just being willfully ignorant. But I'll give you a little history about the University of Mississippi. It has a long, long history of being a hotbed of racism. Just back in 2015, there was an incident where talking about a consistent, ongoing pattern of racism. One that comes to mind was back in 2015 when some students put, again, fraternity douchebags, thought it was funny to put a noose over the statue of James Meredith. And the student who was responsible for that was actually indicted on federal hate crime charges. Because guess what, Matt? Despite contrary to what you actually just said there, contrary to what you just said there in your video, that hate speech is not protected by the First Amendment. And it's not protected by the First Amendment for a very specific reason, because in the law enforcement has to regard it, to do their job, they have to regard it as incitement to violence. So that's just one very recent example. But Matt, Ole Miss, the University of Mississippi is called Ole Miss University. The Ole Miss, that nickname comes from the name that was given to the eldest black female slave on the plantations. And I still call Ole Miss Ole Miss. The University of Mississippi Ole Miss. Everyone does, but that's the origin of that, Matt. The Confederate flag for the longest time was the official flag of the University of Mississippi. It was, you and I are about the same age, Matt. It was while I was in high school that in Oxford, that the university finally passed a resolution banning the Confederate flag from the games, from the football games, and from all Ole Miss University public forums and public events and everything like that. They finally got rid of it. But here's the thing, and Matt, you are so fascinated with the Civil War. I think surely you probably know this. That flag that we refer to as the Confederate flag, it was never actually the flag of the Confederate Army. It was a design that they passed on for instead for the circle of stars. That version was what they actually flew, what the Confederate Army actually flew during the Civil War. But the X design that everyone thinks of as the rebel flag, the Confederate flag, that was never the flag of the Confederate Army. It was adopted later by the Ku Klux Klan, and then it was adopted by the state of Mississippi because it was the Ku Klux Klan's flag. It was adopted by the state of Mississippi as a smack in the face to black people, and then it was adopted by the University of Mississippi as a smack in the face to black people, which is why every single person who says that they're waving the rebel flag because it's their heritage and they're celebrating the brave men and the brave men that fought in the Confederate Army and all that are completely full of shit. They are possibly deeply ill-informed and well-meaning, but they are still completely full of shit. And so on top of that, the University of Mississippi is where the aforementioned James Meredith, that was in the 1960s, that's where he was integrated into he was integrated at the University of Mississippi, the first black man to be integrated at a previously all-white public university. They had to bring in the National Guard to make that happen. And when he was brought in, you go look at the pictures of James Meredith, and you will see the same thing that you saw in that picture, in those pictures of James Meredith and being yelled at by mobs of hundreds and hundreds of angry white students. You will see the same thing you saw happening to this black woman. The only difference is James Meredith didn't flip any of them off, but I'm sure he wanted to. But anyway, yeah, they harassed him. They made it damn near impossible for him to live in the dorms. They harassed him all his entire time there, and he still got a good education while he was there. And then, what you want to know, maybe you don't know, Matt, but Ole Miss University's battle cry that they shout at the games goes like this. It goes, hell yes, damn right, hotty toddy, gosh shamati, who in the hell are we? Hey, flim flam, bim bam, Ole Miss by damn. Okay, the original version of that was changed from not Ole Miss, it was white men by damn. And white men, when James Meredith, 20 years after being a student at the University of Mississippi, when James Meredith was back at the University of Mississippi, came back to receive a special recognition from the school, another one of these angry mobs of white men stood outside the university and shouted that version of the Ole Miss battle cry at the top of their lungs. Ole Miss is an amazing school. You can get an amazing education there. But you have to deal with this shit. And that's what I said. Like, when I was there, when I was living in Oxford, the theater department at Ole Miss was my haven, my paradise, my oasis. Every time the kids at the university, and it's an incredible theater program, by the way, but every time those kids put on a new production, whether it was something obvious like, something well known like Pirates of Penzance, or the Grand Ceremonial, which is a very unknown play, but is also my favorite stage play. All of this wide range of by, I believe, Fernando Arrabal is the name of the guy, but anyway. This wide range of just amazing stuff, everything from Andrew Lloyd Webber to, obscure, esoteric playwrights, all of the stuff, I saw all the Tennessee Williams plays there and everything. I love the Ole Miss theater department. And yet you've also got this shit attached to it. Like I said, it's like being best friends with a guy who's got a neo-Nazi conjoined twin. I mean, it's the weirdest, most surreal thing. And what's funny is when you live there, you kind of like, it kind of becomes the background radiation. You just get used to it, but I give you an idea of what it was like when I was there. There was, when I was a student at Oxford High, one day, some kids were passing around a Confederate flag memorabilia magazine called The Chancellor's Shop. Now, understand, the University of Mississippi, the president is called the Chancellor, so that's what it's in reference to. And the Chancellor's Shop, this magazine, it was just Confederate flags all over everything. And I remember looking at that magazine, and one of the products that they were selling was a bumper sticker that showed the Confederate flag flying over the White House with the word, and then it said, "I have a dream." Like, that's what you're fucking dealing with. And it's just like so right there. And here's the thing, Matt. I'll tell you what, man. I'm not one of these crazy leftists that you like to cut down on your show. I understand the rampant, ridiculous lunacy of the people who the George Floyd, everything associated with George Floyd happened, and they think that they're doing something. They announced that they're going to go read White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. I recognize the absurdity and stupidity of that, and they're going to go wash the feet of black people. All of these ridiculous, over the top, patronizing, condescending, self-congratulatory gestures and things like that. The people that think, the people that practically think that they need to apologize to a black person if they walk by and their shadow cast across them as they go. It's like they are just completely twisted up with these insane fears of being at all racist or anything. And it's like, yeah, I just want to try to tell these people, like, look, you're not the problem. You're not the problem. You're not going to be the problem. If you slip up and say something awkward around a black person, it's not going to be the end of the world. People like these pieces of shit that are harassing this woman, they're the problem. And the three main instigators of this, by the way, the Mississippi chapter of the NAACP has released their names. I'm not going to say them just on principle because I don't want to be contributing to a cyber mob at all, even of assholes like this. But I do agree that they should. One of them's already the monkey noises guy has already been expelled from his fraternity, and I hope that all three of them are expelled from the University of Mississippi with prejudice. I hope they never are allowed to return. They need to learn a very serious lesson, because you really need to stop and remember that the attitude down there, these guys really do come from this world of, they see themselves as, you have to remember, these are the Gone with the Wind people. These are the people who these are the people who look at Gone with the Wind and think that's, that was something wonderful, and they really feel for Scarlett O'Hara. Again, like I've said, like I don't get the appeal of Gone with the Wind. It's like I'm supposed to feel bad because the rich bitch daughter of a slave owner now has to work for a living. Wow, cry me a river, But they're the ones who they really do fantasize. They really have a raging hard on for at the thought of, being the man that comes walking down the stairs arm in arm with the beautiful debutante in her petticoat on the plantation and all that. They really do love that shit. And that really is the world they live in. So these guys do need to get smacked hard with reality that way. Now, in closing, I will say, however, the one thing I want to call for, because no one else is going to call for it, is there does need to be a road to forgiveness for these people, for these young men. That is going to be at the discretion of the woman that they harassed, this woman that they said the racist things to, the woman they harassed. That is going to be at their at her discretion when she's ready to forgive them, and she should not be prompted to forgive them 1 nanosecond before she is ready to do so. But I do think that these young men need to atone for what they've done. They need to take the time to seriously learn about reality, and atone for what they've done, and genuinely repent of their actions. But there needs to be a path forward for forgiveness for them. If we don't afford them that, if we don't afford a path forward to forgiveness, then we don't have a culture, we don't have a society, we just have anger. So I don't know what that looks like, and like I said, none of that is meant to excuse their actions at all. Like I said, they need to be expelled. They need to be expelled completely from the University of Mississippi, and they need to seriously face consequences for their actions. But I do think there needs to be a long-term push towards redemption for them. That's my opinion. I think that, I have, it weighs on me. My regular viewers to my channel have heard me talk about things like this lately, but I do have a problem with people that are destroyed by the cyber mob to such an extent that they can never function again. One of the most egregious examples of that right now would be, for example, Rachel Dolezal, who not a lot of people know this, but you know what her source of income is now? OnlyFans. Now, no one, I don't think there was ever a major recognition of Rachel Dolezal as a sex symbol. That really is just her degrading herself for money. And don't get me wrong, I'm pro sex workers' rights, all of that. But that really is just her degrading herself for money. But but nevertheless, I mean, the worst, what she did, yes, it was racist, but it was ultimately victimless. It was just embarrassing for her and for everybody else. It was just incredibly embarrassing. But she's talked about she can't get a job, she can't get employment, she has no ability to move on with her life whatsoever. She's stuck doing OnlyFans because the only marketable thing she has is degradation. And so, and I, again, I'm not approving of what she did, but that's just another side of this that we've got to address. Is these people, people have to face consequences for their actions. What these guys did was horrible, and like I said, I am not mentioning their names on principle, but I want to drop their names. In fact, that's the very least of what I'd like to. That's the very least of what I'd like to drop about them. But that was me implying that I'd like to deck one off them. I'm not going to, and I'm not suggesting that I will. I'm just saying that's the level of animosity I have towards them. But anyway, these guys are pieces of shit. Real subhuman pieces of shit. We need to give them an opportunity to become human, to discover their humanity. Anyway, all of that said, I do feel that we don't talk about redemption enough in all of this, and so, like I said, anyway, I think you get my point. But at the end of the day, if you sincerely think that this was not horrible racism, you're a fucking idiot. No, the University of Mississippi has a long, sordid history with racism, and it has not done enough to get rid of that. I mean, the fact that it still calls itself Ole Miss is an example of that. But yeah, the University of Mississippi and Oxford still have a long way to go. There is still a Confederate War Memorial on the courthouse steps in Oxford, Mississippi, and that should not be there. Absolutely should not be there. People have been campaigning for it to be removed for years, all the way back to when I was there. So, that's where I stand. But good God, I mean, I cannot. I am not at all a politically correct sort of person, and I am very not politically correct at all. But good God, there's a difference between people getting up in arms over things that are not racist at all, that they are imagining are racist, and things that blatantly are racist. No, this is real. And honestly, when I saw the video of that kid doing that, it was a flashback for me, man. I have long-term PTSD from Oxford, from living in Oxford. And that kid with his haircut, with the look, the clothes that he was wearing, everything, again, it's an assembly line look for those guys down there, man. And I have been victimized repeatedly in the extreme by people who looked exactly like that. No. You want to talk about systemic racism, there it is.